Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on a really fascinating journey, actually, into one of the most pivotal moments in ancient texts, specifically Genesis chapter 3, verse 3. We've taken a deep dive into an excerpt called Genesis 3.3, the woman's addition to God's command.
Right.
Our mission today is really to unpack this single verse, like word by word,
Yeah.
and uncover a subtle but incredibly significant detail.
It really is
This
significant.
detail, it's just a small alteration in a divine command, but it sets the entire stage for everything that happens next in the narrative.
Absolutely.
And it offers this powerful insight into how communication, even with the best intentions, can get, misconstrued or altered.
Precisely. And what's truly fascinating here is how a seemingly minor addition, just a few words added to a command, can carry such profound implications.
Right.
Not just for the story itself, the direction it takes,
Yeah.
but also for understanding the nuances of how information gets relayed and, importantly, how it's received. This isn't just, ancient history. It really illuminates the very nature of how we humans interact with crucial information.
So, for you, our listener, what exactly does Genesis 3.3 say? And what's this big reveal we're about to uncover inside it? Let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start by looking at the verse itself. This is the woman articulating God's command about the forbidden tree.
Her version of it.
Right, her version. And this moment, it crucially sets the stage for the serpent's, cunning counter-argument that follows. The English translation usually reads something like, "But of the fruit of the tree, which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die."
Okay, so hearing that, the verse immediately brings a critical question to mind, doesn't it?
Yes, Tolly.
Is this precisely what God had actually said? We're going to need to break down each part to see where the nuances really lie.
Good plan. First up, that opening phrase.
Yeah.
Urmiprias.
Yeah.
In English, that's translated as "but of the fruit of the tree." That little word, vav, at the start, it acts like but or and, connecting back to what was just said.
Right, linking the thoughts.
And me means from or of, with pri meaning fruit. Then ha is simply the, and its is tree.
Pretty straightforward so far.
Yeah, and this tree, it clearly refers to the specific tree of knowledge in the garden. She's distinguishing it from the other general trees of the garden mentioned just before.
That immediate specificity is key, I think. She's not talking generally at all. She's pinpointing the exact object of the command.
Yeah. Do you think that level of detail from her shows she completely understands? Or maybe it's an overemphasis that hints at something else?
That's a great question. It could be either, couldn't it? Maybe she's trying too hard to be precise.
Interesting thought. It feels like she's trying to be very exact. Okay, next bit. Aksher, be talk, hagen, meaning which is in the midst of the garden. This specifies the tree's location even further. You've got bet, meaning in, talk, meaning midst or middle, and gan, meaning garden. So she's certainly being meticulous about which tree God commanded about.
Right, and that attention to detail, like you said, it seems to underscore her understanding of the command, at first glance anyway. Yet it also sort of builds the anticipation for this crucial variance we know is coming.
Exactly. Then we hear Amar Elohim.
God has said.
God has said, exactly. Amar means said, referring to God, and Elohim is one of the names for God in the Hebrew Bible. So no question she's attributing the command directly to the divine authority.
Clear attribution.
Now let's get to the core of the prohibition itself. Efen suko, lo toklu mimenu.
You shall not eat of it.
You shall not eat of it. Lo is a very clear not, and toklu means you, but it's plural, you all shall eat.
Right, referring to both her and Adam.
Yeah, and this echoes back to Genesis 3.2, where she just mentioned they could eat from other trees.
Yeah.
So it sets up this specific prohibition. Mimenu means from it or of it, referring back to the fruit.
And this part, this is the absolute foundational piece of God's original instruction, isn't it?
Totally.
The clear prohibition against eating the fruit, nothing else mentioned there.
Right. And now we come to the part of the verse that, it just shifts the entire narrative. Evletiku bo,
Ah, here it is.
which means neither shall you touch it. Velo is and not, or neither. And bo means it, or in it. So why is this phrase so critical?
Well, this phrase, neither shall you touch it, this is the pivotal addition, the addition made by the woman.
Okay.
Because God's original command, the one given to Adam back in Genesis 2:117, it only forbade eating the fruit.
Only eating.
Only eating, it never mentioned touching it. So This subtle alteration, it's a critical detail that completely changes the dynamic of the story. It basically gives the serpent a direct opening, something to exploit.
Wow.
It really begs the question, right? Why was this no-touching rule added? And what are its profound implications for the conversation that's about to happen?
It's just remarkable how that one extra prohibition, neither shall you touch it, represented by that word, digu, you shall touch,
Yeah.
how it carries so much weight.
So much.
What does that subtle inclusion tell us about maybe her state of mind? Or her intention, perhaps?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The Hebrew verb tigu itself implies, direct physical contact.
Right.
What's absolutely key is that this specific instruction, do not touch, it's just not found in God's original command in chapter 2.
It's just not there.
It's not there. So its inclusion by the woman, I mean, even if it came out of an abundance of caution, maybe,
Right.
or a desire to sort of build a stronger fence around the rule.
Like a buffer zone.
Exactly, a buffer zone. But it inadvertently created a new vulnerability. This verbal change, this addition, it totally sets the stage for the serpent's immediate response, that deceptive questioning in the very next verses.
Because now there's a new rule for the serpent to test.
Precisely. A rule that wasn't even God's rule to begin with. He can test that rule, show it's maybe not true, and cast doubt on the whole thing.
Wow. Okay, so what does this all mean for us then, for you listening? It profoundly highlights how a command, even maybe with good intentions or perhaps a desire to be overly cautious.
Yeah, the desire to be extra careful.
Can be subtly altered when it's spoken again, when it's articulated.
Mm-hmm.
And this seemingly minor addition, adding don't touch, it leads to a completely different path for the story.
It really does.
And for the characters involved.
And what this brings to my mind is how often do we do this, in our own communications? How often do we subtly alter information? Maybe we do it to simplify things, or maybe we add what we think is a helpful clarification.
Yeah, trying to be helpful.
Without fully grasping the potential impact on its actual meaning or, how the other person is going to interpret it. This isn't just a simple communication error. I think it reveals a deeply human tendency.
To do what?
To kind of overcorrect, maybe,
Yeah.
or add these extra layers of self-imposed restriction.
Yeah.
Often it comes out of a desire for, greater safety or control, but it can backfire.
And there you have it. A seemingly minor linguistic detail in Genesis 3.3, the woman's addition of, neither shall you touch it. It dramatically shifts the entire narrative trajectory.
Shifts.
It wasn't just about, say, misremembering. It was about adding to an instruction.
Actively adding.
Which had these profound and ultimately unintended consequences.
It's such a powerful reminder that precision in communication matters. It matters immensely.
Yeah.
Understanding not just what was said, but also what wasn't said. And crucially, what was added, that can completely change our comprehension of a situation and, its potential outcomes.
So for you, our listener, here's maybe a final provocative thought to mull over from this. How might adding those extra instructions or details to a direct command, even when you have the best intentions, you're trying to be helpful or safe, how might that inadvertently create new vulnerabilities or new misunderstandings in your own daily interactions?
That's a good takeaway.
Something to ponder, perhaps, as you navigate your own sources of information and your own communication.